Hi, welcome to video 2.3c. These are new trig derivatives. So far we've only seen derivatives of sine and cosine. If you remember, derivative of sine is cosine, derivative of cosine is negative sine. So we're going to learn the derivatives of the other four, tan, cotan, secant, and cosecant. The first formula is the derivative of tan of x is secant squared x. Now you can reproduce these if you forget them, because you know that the tangent of x is the same thing as the sine of x over the cosine of x, and therefore we now have a quotient rule. So if you follow it through, square the denominator, etc., you will see that you get cos squared plus sine squared over cos squared, which of course cos squared plus sine squared is 1, and another name for 1 over cosine squared is secant squared x. So you could do the same with cotan. You'll end up with negative cosecant squared x. Derivative of secant x is secant x tan x, and the derivative of cosecant x is negative cosecant x cotan x. Now, for these four, a little way to remember which is which, you'll notice that the cos are paired with the cos, and the non-cos are paired with the non-cos. Same thing, no co, co. Also, the cos, cotan and cosecant, the derivatives are negative, but the non-cos, the derivatives are positive. So it's a question of memorizing these formulas, and of course you already know these other two. So now you know the derivatives of all 6 trig functions. So basically, now that you know new formulas, you're going to be asked to find the derivative. Derivative of x is 1. Derivative of cotan x is negative cosecant squared x. Remember, derivative of co is negative and co. Now, that's a perfectly fine answer, but you can bet that if it's multiple choice, they won't leave it that way. You are supposed to know from Algebra 2 and Pre-Calc, cotan squared x plus 1 equals cosecant squared x. So, if you were to rewrite this, you would leave the 1 here, subtract cosecant squared from each side, and subtract cotan squared from each side. You would see that 1 minus cosecant squared x is actually 1 minus cotan squared x. And that's how it would look in multiple choice. Another example, y equals secant x over x. So, of course, this is the new trig function derivative we just learned, and this is a quotient rule. So we apply the quotient rule when you get to the derivative of secant x. It's secant x tan x. So then you just simplify, which basically in this case is you get rid of the parentheses, and then please notice that you do have a secant x in common, so it would be a good idea to start getting into the habit of factoring. Plus, I'll ask you to do that. Okay, another one. The original question looks like this. You have to notice that x sine x is actually a product. So pay attention, be looking for the hidden product rule. So we take the derivative of x times sine x, which is first factor times derivative of second plus second factor times derivative of first, etc. So this is with sine and cosine, something you already know. Numbers 55 through 58, just so you'll see what those look like. 55 through 58 says use the computer algebra system, which is your calculator, to differentiate the function. So you'll notice this is a combination product and quotient rule, as is this. I honestly don't know why these are here, because these are very easy to do by hand. But the idea is just to find the derivative of these functions. So that's not something I don't think I need to go over. Okay, so moving along, numbers 59 through 62, evaluate the derivative of the function at the given point. So you're finding the derivative, and then you're going to replace all the x's by 1. Now, you absolutely could do a product rule here, but it would be very sad because it would take a very long time compared to think about this and think about this every time. Before you take the derivative of a function, look to see if you can simplify that function. Turns out that cotan x is 1 over tan x. You should know that. Tan x over tan x is 1, and therefore you're taking the derivative of 1, and you're getting 0. Okay, so always look to see if you can simplify the f of x before you take the derivative. Now, it says at the point 1, 1, but it doesn't really matter what x is, because the derivative is always 0 no matter what x is in this particular case. Alright, so quick review of what we know. The derivative of sine x, hopefully you can answer these before I say them, is cosine x. The derivative of cosine x is negative sine x. Derivative of tan x is secant squared x. Derivative of cotan x is negative cosecant squared x. The derivative of secant x is secant x times tan x. And the derivative of cosecant x is negative cosecant x cotan x. Make sure you know them all. Make sure you realize all the derivatives of the cos are negative. All the derivatives of the non-cos are positive. And as far as the last four, if it's non-co, it's non-co. If it's co, it's co, etc. Okay? And that's the end of video 2.3c.